Hello, Year 3. So this is our second lesson, our first lesson actually, sorry, learning about symbols in particular. I'm going to go on to explain a bit more about that in a minute. But first of all, I want you to have a look at the pictures on my screen and have a little think. You might want to pause the video, have a little think about what each one means and whether you understand what they are showing. So I'm just going to put, if you pause the video for a minute and then we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, so hopefully you recognize all of those really, really quickly. Probably the one that I'm sure that you noticed the first is the red one with the M, which we know is the symbol for McDonald's, which I'm sure most of you really like, place you like to visit. The one with the apple on, we understand straight away that when we see that it stands for the company Apple and all the things that they make. So an iPhone or an iPad or all the other things that you might love to use. The green one at the top with the arrows going round, hopefully you recognize that is the recycling symbol. So that tells you, that reminds you to recycle the rubbish or the packaging that you might have got. And if it's on something, it usually means that you are able to recycle it. And the last one with the bat, I'm sure you will recognize that. That is the symbol for Batman. It's a light that shines out over Gotham City. So what is a symbol? Let's see if we can just move my slides on a minute. Oops, nothing's happening. I don't know why that's not moving. Oh, there we go. What is a symbol? So we're today thinking particularly about symbols that have meaning for Christians. So a symbol, you can see down at on my picture, I've got a road sign. And I'm sure that if you see that, you know that that is a sign to drivers to say, be careful, there might be children crossing ahead. But it would be far too confusing to write all of that out in words every time you wanted to tell drivers to be careful. So we've got a very simple picture, and any driver who sees that knows that there is a chance that they're along the road, they're coming up to a place where there's a school, there might be children crossing. So drivers learn that that symbol means you've got to be careful. The red round the edge says warning, and the bit in the middle is a sign, it tells you what you've got to be careful about. So a symbol is a picture that has a special message or a meaning, and it often tells people much more than you might see in the initial picture, but because everybody understands what it stands for, people know what it means. So that's what a symbol is. It represents a much bigger meaning. Like my sign there, it would be very difficult to fit all of that information onto a sign that size on the side of a road. So be careful, there might be children crossing up ahead. We know when we see that symbol, that's what it means. Now, I've got some pictures here, which are all, I'm just gonna move that down and move me down a bit so you can see them properly. So I've got some pictures here, and these pictures are things which have very special significance for Christians. They symbolize really big ideas. So maybe have a pause of the video, maybe have a little think about what you think when you might have seen bread or candles or pictures of, that's a lamb up there with a cross. If you've ever been in a church, you might have seen those things in a church or as part of Christian worship. Maybe pause the video, just have a little think about when and where you might have seen them and what you think they might mean to a Christian. Okay, well, each of those things, those pictures are all linked to special stories or ideas in Christianity. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the candle. Now, a candle is a source of light. It gives light out in the darkness. And for Christians, candles quite often symbolize or represent the light of God. So the idea that all good things, all light comes from God and that darkness is made bright by the light of God. So a candle is a really special symbol for Christians. And often the other thing that they often represent is the idea that Jesus is the light of the world. Jesus said this about himself. He said, I am the light of the world. So the idea that he came to earth and he brought the light of God with him. And there's a lovely picture, very famous, in the middle there. You can see a picture of Jesus knocking on a door, bringing light. And that picture is all about the idea of Jesus bringing light into your life, but you have to let him in if you're a Christian. So, and in fact, I found something else about this when I was looking at it. In the picture, there's no handle on the outside of the door. So Jesus is knocking and the person inside. So it symbolizes allowing Jesus to come into your life, but you have to open the door to him. So Christians can see a candle as the light of God. It can symbolize the light of God, and it can also symbolize Jesus as the light of the world. In my last picture, some churches, not all Christian churches, but some Christian churches have places where you can light a candle. And some people might do this because it might help them to concentrate and to pray, or to represent the light of God. And they're also sometimes used to commemorate loved ones who are no longer with us, so people who've died. Another time you might see a candle in a Christian church is when someone's being baptized. So in some churches, when a person's being baptized, a candle is lit to show that that person is sharing in the light of God. So that's the symbolic meaning of candles for Christians. Now, bread is very important symbol for many, many Christians. So I'm just going to move myself over here now. So the main way that bread is used for Christians to symbolize important ideas for Christians is because Christians believe that at the Last Supper, and there's a picture of that over here, at the Last Supper, Jesus shared bread and wine in a meal with his disciples, his friends, who we call disciples, and he said to them that he told them that he was going to die, and that he was that he was like the bread, so that he was sharing himself with everybody. So often in some Christian worship, a lot of Christian worship, bread is shared during a church service to remember that the idea that Jesus died for everybody, and the bread is symbolic of Jesus himself and his body. Also, I know we did this story in class, which hopefully you remember last term. We talked about the story where Jesus fed 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish. So he performed a miracle. So it's also used to symbolize Jesus, some of the amazing things that Christians believe that Jesus did while he was alive on earth. So bread's a very important symbol, and often used to symbolize Jesus himself, the way he shared himself with everybody. And the last one, and move myself over here, is a lamb. So this one up here is a lamb. Now, Jesus described himself as the Lamb of God. And a long time ago, people used to sometimes sacrifice lambs. Kill them basically as a part of a way of showing love and respect for God. When Jesus came along, Christians believe that he told people not to sacrifice real animals anymore, but that he himself was the Lamb of God who was going to be sacrificed to save everybody, so they didn't need to sacrifice animals anymore. And there's a painting down here that shows a lamb that I think is going to be sacrificed. But also Christians, Jesus also described himself as a good shepherd. So he was telling people that it was like a shepherd who looks after his flock of sheep. And Christians believe that they are like the flock of sheep, and Jesus is like the shepherd who leads them and looks after them and finds them when they're lost and saves them. And in this painting here, we've got a picture of Jesus with a lost sheep on his shoulders that he's bringing back to safety. So Christians see Jesus both as a lamb himself and also as a good shepherd. So the lamb's a very important symbol for Christians and has different meanings. Okay, now, if you're working at home, what I'd like you to do, you could either, you could draw a picture of each of these symbols from the slide. You could pause it and just draw it yourself, or you could find some pictures from a magazine, or you could print them from the internet. But see if you can find a very simple picture of a loaf of bread, a candle, and a lamb. And on a piece of paper, see if you can either cut them out and stick them down, or draw them down and write just a very short sentence under each one about what they symbolize, those pictures symbolize for Christians. And if you can't remember, you can always go back and go through the video again, play the video again, and that will remind you. So let's just recap quickly. So candles represent the light of God, and Jesus being the light of the world. The bread for many Christians represents Jesus's body and the sacrifice he made. And the lamb can represent, again, the sacrifice that Jesus made. It can also represent Jesus being a good shepherd and looking after everybody and saving people. And after you've done that, I've got a lovely symbol here. I want you to have a think about something that is very important to you. So it might be a hobby or something you love to do, or it might be something like your family. and see if you can design your own symbol. So your own very simple picture that carries much more meaning for you. And I really like this one. So this is a picture of a family, a symbol of a family. It's a really simple drawing, but I think it really shows the way that families can be very close together and very important to each other. So have a little go and see if you can do your own symbol of something which is very important to you. Yeah, enjoy your home learning, and I will speak to you again soon.